A few weeks ago, we began our special election series, The Choice, and we gave you the facts on the virus. Follow us at Steve Hilton X and at NextRevFNC if you haven't shared that full version yet. Tonight, we'll look at the other giant issue that has dominated the headlines. What is the choice on law and order and racial justice? It all started with George Floyd. Except, of course, it didn't start with George Floyd. Here are the facts. The number of unarmed black men shot and killed by police last year, according to a database maintained by the Washington Post, was 13. But that's not the whole story. Yes, 13 is a relatively tiny number compared to the whole population, but every time one of these occurs, millions of black parents fear for their own children. And more broadly, it's not just about death or the fear of it. It's about the smaller, daily indignities. 84% of black adults say they're treated less fairly when dealing with the police. 87% say the same about the criminal justice system. 70% say it about stores and restaurants. A study of nearly 100 million traffic stops found that black drivers in America are 20% more likely to get pulled over. And even that's not the whole story, not by a long way. We cannot allow our justified anger at the appalling scenes of looting and violence, the opportunistic exploitation of legitimate concern, to blind us to the facts about the black experience in America. On almost every measure, black people are on the wrong end of inequality. We saw it on the virus, with much higher mortality rates. On median income, the gap is over $30,000. The average white household has nearly 18 times as much wealth as the average black household. 3/4 of white Americans own their own home. For black Americans, it's less than half. And perhaps the most destructive, more black people in jail, even though there are nearly 5 times as many white Americans as black Americans. Why is this? Many conservatives say it's cultural. Issues like absent fathers, it's all about behavior. The left says it's structural, the legacy of centuries of institutional racism and discrimination. Honestly, it's both, and we need change on both. But now we come to the politics and the choice in this election. Where's the change we need going to come from? Look at the places where disadvantage for black people in America is most apparent. The state with the highest number of black residents killed by police last year was California. Who's the governor? Democrat Gavin Newsom. Who's the Attorney General? Democrat Javier Becerra. Before him, a certain Kamala Harris. It's practically a one-party state. On education, in California, on math and reading scores at 8th grade, there is a 41-point gap between black and white students. That's equivalent to 4 years of learning. It's the same dystopian picture on the other coast. Over a third of New York City's public housing is occupied by African Americans. And it is a total disgrace, plagued by lead paint poisoning, mold, heating failures, and chronic mismanagement. Democrat Bill de Blasio in charge. Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, everywhere you see black Americans let down and left behind. Democrats in charge, year after year after year. 53 years in Baltimore, 58 years in Detroit, 141 years in Atlanta. There's no one else to blame. When it comes to the actual policies that affect their lives, black people in America have been oppressed for decades, not so much by white people in general as by white Democrats in state and local government. But what about national government? What's the choice there? With President Trump, black unemployment fell to just over 5%, the lowest in history. The best we saw under Biden was nearly 8%. Millions more black people in work with Trump than under Biden. With Trump, black home ownership is approaching 50%. When he took over from Obama and Biden, it was just over 40%. With Trump, median black income rose to over $45,000. That's over $5,000 a year higher than under Biden. And with Trump, a hugely significant milestone achieved. The black poverty rate down below 20% for the first time ever. Much of this was the result of President Trump's overall pro-growth, pro-worker agenda. But he also took action to help black Americans specifically. He pushed for record funding for HBCUs. He set up opportunity zones to incentivize billions of dollars in investment in poor urban neighborhoods. And then criminal justice reform. Joe Biden's crime bill sent millions of black men to jail, ripping apart families and destroying communities. It was President Trump who reversed it with the First Step Act. Now Biden's on the wrong side of criminal justice policy again. In the Biden-Bernie unity document, their recommendations on this run to 2,392 words without one single mention of fighting crime. On this topic, out of 29 Biden policy proposals, there is not a single one that's actually about law and order. We know Trump is for law and order. He tells us all the time. Less well known is his action on racial justice. In fact, the only actual practical action at the federal level after George Floyd has come from Trump. He announced specific police reforms, banning chokeholds in most situations, creating a database for tracking bad cops, and using alternative responders so we don't ask the police to solve all society's problems. He's also backed repeatedly Republican Senator Tim Scott's police reform bill. By contrast, the Democrats, who screamed the loudest for police reform, blocked it, including, let's remember, Senator Kamala Harris. Democrats are too weak to stand up to their woke activists. Look at Minneapolis. They voted to defund their police department and are now seeing a surge in robberies, assaults, and murders as a result. It's the same in Democrat-run cities everywhere. After the George Floyd protests across 20 major cities, the murder rate at the end of June was on average 37% higher than a month before. As even the New York Times reported, quote, police officials in several cities said the protests diverted officers from crime-fighting duty or emboldened criminals. The left doesn't care about any of this. All they care about is words, empty, woke words. And Trump's, who they call a racist. Really? Not according to the people who actually know him.
It hurt my soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist.
An election is a choice. So let's look at Biden on race. Here he is, yucking it up with a leader of the Ku Klux Klan. No surprise considering Biden's views on black people.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community.
I want to be very careful with my words here. It's too simplistic to say, because of his decades of racially disparaging black people, that in his heart Joe Biden is a racist. But it's clear that he considers black people to be a homogeneous bloc, that he sees black people as lesser than, that he does not see black people as equal. And no, serving a black president or putting a black woman on the ticket doesn't change any of that or wipe out his record. Biden has a racist mindset. So it's no surprise he has racist policies. He's pledged to kill a Washington, D.C. school choice program that helps poor kids go to college, over 90% of them black and Hispanic, attacking the very schools that help poor kids and black kids the most alone makes Biden unfit to be president. So does his shameful defense of critical race theory in that first debate. Critical race theory itself is racist, hateful, divisive, anti-Semitic, and now fully endorsed by Biden. Biden would defund the police. Sorry, reimagine public safety. We don't need to imagine. With Democrat rule, there is no public safety. They'd eliminate cash bail nationwide, a revolving door for rioters. They'd wage war on families, guaranteed to boost crime, not cut it. Insanely, they'd abolish opportunity zones, slashing investment in black neighborhoods. These extreme, destructive policies would hurt black Americans the most. By contrast, Trump's second-term agenda would continue the positive progress of the past 4 years. Defending and reforming the police, not defunding and attacking the police. Expanding opportunity zones, creating jobs, bringing school choice to all. On crime and racial equality, the choice in the election is clear. With Trump, expanding opportunity. Under Biden, crushing it. With Trump, police reform. under Biden, police retreat. Law and order and justice, or crime, chaos, and woke tyranny. The message is clear. Don't vote for Trump despite the race issue. Vote for him because of it.